The cases preserved in Proto-Germanic language were dative, instrumental, with traces of vocative. Vocative, as I told you before, when you address someone, like المنادى في العربي, and of locative or locative. Uh, comes from location, okay, referring to like اسم المكان كده. The nominative and the accusative for the subject and for the object, and the genitive for the possession as or possessive case, as I told you before. Okay, there have been inflections for number. طبعا we have seen the singular number, for example the nominative singular inflection or declension is different from the plural nominative case. So here we have an additional number which is not existing anymore in English, which is the dual number. The dual number in Proto-Indo-European. It is there, it was there in Proto-Indo-European, and small, very, very small remnant or traces are left in Germanic languages. Okay, so the dual number was previously existing in Proto-Indo-European or originally existing in Indo-European language, and it transferred or passed to the some of the daughter or most or maybe all of the daughter languages, and some very small traces are left in the contemporary Germanic languages or the living languages spoken nowadays. Okay, the dual number is existing in classical Arabic, in Arabic, standard Arabic, right? We have this we have this number. We say يومين. Okay, in English this would be just days, plural. Or we have to specify the number. We say 2 days, but there is no specific inflection for the dual number, which was previously existing in Proto-Indo-European and Proto-Germanic, and with very few traces in the rest of the daughter Germanic languages. There were several sets of case inflections for groups of nouns, so that certain noun group would follow specific declension pattern. This is a feature of Proto-Indo-European. So certain group of nouns would have specific forms of inflections. The other would have another inflections that is or that are related to this group, and so on and so forth. So there was various declensions of nouns, not a single set. Okay. All nouns had grammatical gender. How is this working? Grammatical gender. What is the meaning of grammatical gender? Grammatical gender versus actually natural gender. Grammatical gender is usually decided by the language. You need to know it, to memorize it. It doesn't match the natural gender. It doesn't match whether the thing you're referring to is really a male or a female or a neuter gender. Okay, it just is like this. The language decided that this object or this thing is a male or a female, like the case in again Arabic. We say what we say. What about الشمس, for example? الشمس, we know by default that as speakers of Arabic that الشمس is a feminine object, though it is neuter in reality. It doesn't have a gender. يعني it is neither a masculine nor a feminine, right? It is neuter, though Arabic language decided to use the feminine like articles or feminine marks for or when referring to the sun. Al-Kitab, for example. Al-Kitab, it is we know by again default or as native speakers of Arabic that al-kitab is a masculine, right? Again, it is neuter. In reality, it is neuter. However, Arabic language decided that the book or al-kitab is a masculine. So this is what is known as grammatical gender. It is much more complicated than the natural gender. The idea of natural gender is very easy. We use it in contemporary English, right? We say the book and we refer to it using the pronoun it. The sun is it for us, and so on and so forth. The girl would be she, and the boy would be he. However, in French, which is one of the Latin languages and the Romance languages, as you know, is what the Latin is a language uh, that use grammatical gender rather than natural gender. If you know a little bit of French, you might know that livre, which is book, okay, is what we say le livre. So lu and la, we have lu and la. Lu for the masculine, la for the feminine. Though the book again is neuter. So all nouns in Proto-Germanic were grammatical or uses grammatical gender or follow grammatical gender rather than natural gender. Grammatical gender has no connection with natural gender or anonymity. Every noun has to be masculine, feminine, neuter, based on what the language decides, not on the reality of such a noun. This is still existing in some modern Germanic languages, such as German. Okay, for those of you who know German, again, can you give examples? Some examples are like the girl. The girl in German is das Mädchen. Das Mädchen. Das here is neuter, refers to neuter objects. Okay, so however, it is used with the Mädchen, which is girl, which is feminine. So as I told you, it's a bit complicated, and you know to know well the language and the language rules in order to know how gender is working, the grammatical gender is working with these languages. Okay. So far, we have seen how the nouns behaved in Proto-Germanic and, of course, the Grand Indo-European or Proto-Indo-European. Adjectives in Proto-Indo-European followed their noun in its case and gender. Again, like the case of Arabic or in Arabic. In Arabic, we have what? We have the like a conform or a match between the adjective and between the noun, the following noun. We say what? We say الفتيات, الجميل ولا الجميلات. So الجميلات, which is the adjective, follows the gender, follows the number كمان. Here we have plural. Now we have الفتيات, this is plural. الجميلات is plural too. If it is الفتاتين, which is dual, what follows would be الجميلتين. So here the adjective follows the noun in gender and in number and in case type. What is the case here in Proto-Indo-European? Adjectives again in Proto-Indo-European followed their noun in what? In its case and gender. The same case passed to the descendant Proto-Germanic, the daughter language. The same set of inflections were used in nouns and adjectives in Proto-Indo-European. Okay, so the inflections or the declensions that were used, the inflections على طول, these are the suffixes or the endings that are attached to a noun, and here كمان to adjectives until the case and the gender of and the number of a given noun. Okay, so the same set of inflections were used for both the nouns and the adjectives. Okay, if I use s in nominative, for example, in nominative singular noun, the same inflection would be used with the following or the preceding adjective. Okay, yet Proto-Germanic and other descendant languages such as Latin had distinct set of inflections for nouns and adjectives. So the nouns and adjectives, declensions or inflections were the same. Okay, as I said before, if I used, for example, for the nominative singular in noun, the preceding or the following adjective, okay, would be or would have the same inflection, the same exact inflection. But here in Proto-Germanic and other descendant Germanic languages or other just descendant of Proto-Indo-European language like Latin, because Latin is not a Germanic language. Okay, the nouns and the adjectives would differ in their declensions. يعني in case the noun is a nominative singular and use an attached or accompanying adjective which also has the same case and number would have another inflection. Okay, for example, here for nominative singular, and here for the adjective we'll use us for the, for example, يعني for the nominative singular too. Okay, so and us, yet the same number and the same gender, okay, and used together. Latin, for example, Latin magna domus. Okay, this is the inflection, and this is the inflection. Magna is means big, okay, or great in Latin. Domus means house. All right, so it is feminine. The feminine mark or the feminine inflection in Latin here, as you see, is different from the feminine inflection in or used with the noun. Here is us, and here is with the adjective there is a, and with the noun there is us. Okay, in case بقى it was, يعني imagine that magna domo is or domus is, this is يعني like a Proto-Indo-European or belongs to a Proto-Indo-European. At this case, Proto-Indo-European will use the same inflection in both cases, in the noun and in the adjective or for the adjective. It would be like, for example, magna duma or magnus dumus, for example, okay? All right, so here you now know the use, how the Proto-Germanic use the adjectives, okay? And how some of the descendants of Proto-Germanic again used the inflections here. Magnus Dominus means a great masculine, and here there is a match between, or there is like a common use of us and us for the adjective and for the noun. Okay, all right. Definite articles in Proto-Germanic. Here we are moving to another element in the Proto-Germanic system, which is the definite articles. Okay, in English we have what? We have only the definite article the. Okay, طيب, what is the case in Proto-Germanic? Okay, this is like an introduction for going to the first phase of English, which is Old English. So this is why we are going through this, because in the next chapter, you will be introduced to Old English and Old English grammar, Old English phonology. Okay, so a big part of Old English system, grammatical system, and rules are derived originally from the mother or the grandparent, which is Proto-Germanic language. We will find similarities between some aspects related to Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European and Old English, the first phase of English, as you know. Similar to Proto-Indo-European, Proto-Germanic had a system of cases for articles. يبقى cases are commonly used with nouns, with adjectives, and even with articles. This is really not common in or not used anymore in English. We just have that. See how language is getting to be simplified throughout time, throughout history. Okay, so Proto-Germanic had a system of cases for articles. Type. Let's have a look at like a glimpse about this system. For example, where English has only the, as we've just said, Proto-Germanic had a whole set of forms according to the case, number, gender of the noun. Okay, so like the case in the adjective and how it follows the noun in gender and case and number. Here the definite article again would have inflections, a set of inflections, a set of endings, and it would match the next or the following noun. Okay. So, for example, here from Old English, we have the woman. The woman in Old English is equivalent to the word, okay, withman, withman, okay. As you see here, there is with, okay. You might relate to the word wife, okay. So the woman was defined as being the man's wife. This is why it has this term, withman, in English. Say Whiffman, and Whiffman was not feminine at this time because Old English used to be or to use grammar gender or grammatical gender. Okay, it wasn't natural gender. It wasn't matching the real gender of the thing or the object that it refers to, or the noun that it refers to. So Whiffman was masculine and say was the definite article that is inclined for or marked for masculinity. So say here is masculine. Okay. You know, like the case in French, for example, when we say le or la. Okay. So this say with man, and here we have learning. Learning was considered feminine. It is called lar. Okay, see you, and see you is the definite article, a feminine definite article. Okay, used with again the feminine noun, which is learning or lar in Old English. See you, lar. Okay, the wife was neuter in Old English actually, and it was called with, and that was used with, that was used as a neuter definite article. Okay, that with. Say withman, see you lar. Okay, as you see here, the definite article follows the noun in gender, case, and number. Okay. Declension of definite articles still exist in modern German. Again, for those who who know German, we have der, die, and das. Okay, each one of these is or marks specific gender. Okay, because in German it is grammatical gender, not natural gender. We said previously that dual number was used with or was existing in Indo-European, Proto-Indo-European, and passed to or transferred to the daughter Proto-Germanic, and as a result we would have a dual number that marks pronouns as well. Okay, so in personal pronoun we would have, in English we have just he and she and they. Okay, we have singular and plural, we don't have the dual number for pronouns, but here we have the dual number. Okay, in pronouns, okay, together with the singular and plural ones. In Old English, there is the you, which is I, singular, we, which is here we're talking about the first person, not the second person, okay, or the third person. Here we have first person plural we in Proto-Germanic, and with which means we too. So this is dual pronoun. Okay. Uh, Thu, which is you singular, ge, which is plural, and git, which is dual, meaning you too. Okay. This is the second person. Okay. So the verbs in Proto-Germanic uh, are like the verb system of inflections. You might notice that we use here inflections. Inflections is used with verbs. Okay, the endings or the suffixes used with verbs is called or known as inflections, whereas the endings or suffixes used with nouns is known as declensions. Okay, so declensions for nouns, inflections for verbs. Okay, that's why you would sometimes see the word declension and sometimes see the word inflection. Proto-Germanic retained many of the inflections used in Proto-Indo-European. However, it simplified the system. Okay, it had two tenses. We are here talking about Proto-Germanic, only the present and the past. Okay, there are forms parallel to I sing and I sang, but no forms parallel to I shall sing or I have sung. Okay. However, verbs had different endings for different pronouns. Okay, like the case in Latin, for example. In English, modern English, we would say I sing, she sings, using the S with she and he and it. Okay, they sing again. So I, they, we, you sing, she, he, it sings, as you know. However, in Latin or in Proto-Germanic, the case or the inflections are much more than in contemporary English. So for every pronoun, there would be a different ending or different inflection. So here, canto. Okay, so we have O, cantat, we have at, equivalent to she sings. Okay, and contant or cantant ant, طبعا equivalent to they sing. All right, so with every pronoun there would be another declension, inflection. Okay, another different inflection that would differ in case the verb has become past. Okay, or يعني in the past tense. Okay. Here in also like in Latin, the case in Latin, Proto-Germanic had two sets of inflections for the verbs in indicative and subjunctive. What is indicative and what is subjunctive? The indicative mood is like the state of the state. Okay, the subjunctive is when there are various constructions implying doubt or unreality. Here I would use another kind of inflections attached to the verb. Okay, in the indicative this is the normal form and that would have certain kinds of inflections, um, and for the subjunctive, which is used as we said in various constructions implying doubt and unreality, okay, the inflections would differ. The the subjunctive forms are largely lost in Middle English. or in modern English. Compensated by modern auxiliaries. So as for phonology of Proto-Germanic, one big change is in the matter of accents in particular, where accent depends on two main elements. These two elements are the acoustic loudness, which is stress, and musical pitch, which is intonation. Some languages rely or on one more than the other one. For example, Proto-Indo-European would rely on or more on intonation, whereas Proto-Germanic stress accent was dominant. Another important feature is that Proto-Germanic adopted a uniform stress position. This means that it tends to put stress or place stress on one uh, particular syllable, which is the first syllable in particular. Okay, so Proto-Germanic would prefer to place stress on the first syllable. This is a uniform stress position, systematic one. On the contrary, Proto-Indo-European adopted free accents. This means that you might find the accent in one word uh, on the prefix, sometimes on the stem, and sometimes on the suffix, according to the word. Free accent could still be seen in classical Greek, like as we see in this example. Meter for mother, but meteros, okay, so te here is the stressed syllable. So as you see here in the noun, meter or meter, there is stress placement on the first syllable, whereas in the genitive case of the word, okay, with the form meteros, okay, here we have this stress falling on the second syllable. So as you see, it changes from word to another, whereas in Proto-Germanic, the stress is unified, okay, with respect to position, as it falls typically on the first syllable, okay. Also, the stress placement, fixation, or stabilization, okay, on the first syllable has some consequences, some important phonological consequences, okay. So when the stress falls on the first syllable, this means that there would be unstressed syllables, of course, in the same word. So the deletion of the weak unstressed syllables takes or took place gradually. So some of the unstressed syllables, okay, in a word would be totally deleted, okay, because the first syllable is usually all along is stressed in Proto-Germanic, so some of the unstressed syllables in the word would be dropped out. Okay, so example of word development based on sound change. To bear, here we have Proto-Indo-European equivalent is heronom, heronom, which turns to what? Piranan, piranan. As you see here, the stress falls on the first syllable because this is the usual case in Proto-Germanic, right? Piranan. And in Old English, we have peran. So what happens here? There is a loss of the final syllable. Why? Because it is unstressed. So this is what happened. Because the stress is located usually on the first syllable, so the rest of the word is unstressed, and the very end of the word particularly, the stress decreases and decreases towards the end of words. So some syllables at the end of words are deleted, okay. This is what happened to this word, Piranum, in Proto-Indo-European. In Proto-Germanic, it becomes Piranen, and in Old English, it lost the last syllable due to the fixation of stress placement on the first syllable, which led to the loss of the unstressed syllables at some words, or of some words, like Bayron here. So there is a loss of the final an, the final syllable. Okay. Turn to even in this syllable. Okay, it turned كمان to in early Middle English to n, so it becomes beren. In Middle English, beri, okay, with final e. So from beren to beri, okay. So it in early Middle English and in late Middle English, there is a change again, another change. Okay, one more change, which is the loss of the final na sound, and the alternation of an to n from Old English to early Middle English, and to late Middle English we have Beri with the loss of the final n, again due to the unstressed syllables. Okay, the unstressed syllables are weaker in pronunciation, so they tend to be dropped out throughout time, okay, or throughout history. With final e pronounced as schwa. Even the e here is not bere, it's not strong a, okay, it is just schwa, which, as you know, schwa is a very weak, the weakest vowel, okay, so it becomes bere, as if it is not here, it's as if it is not there, yani, pronounced. So this eventually led to the English bear. Okay, see, this is the final form that this word, originally bheronum, okay, after all these kinds of changes throughout time, this is the final form of pronunciation that we have, or English has, come out or come up with, okay, with all these losses of syllables, unstressed syllables, and even sounds, single sounds. Okay, an alternation of vowels to weak ones, stronger vowels to weaker vowels, leading eventually to a pair. So this is a very, very good and important example that shows the process of sound change throughout time. Okay. Grimm's law, or what is known as the first sound shifting, is one of the well documented major sound changes that occurred in Proto-Indo-European or Indo-European languages. The phoneme system of Proto-Indo-European and Proto-Germanic, of course, was reconstructed, and this is not the first time to hear this word. Okay, I keep repeating it because it is related to the word proto. Okay, Proto-Germanic, Proto-Indo-European. These languages are not existing actually. Okay, they are reconstructed, and the system, the linguistic systems related to them, are reconstructed as well. So the phonemic system is reconstructed by scholars of the 19th century in particular. Proto-Indo-European seems to have a rich array of consonantal system which underwent great changes in Proto-Germanic, and this is what we are going to see in a second with respect to Grimm's law. Okay, that is postulated started to have taken place around 500 BC. The most important series of changes is named as Grimm's law, discovered by Jacob Grimm. Okay, so as you see, the name of the discoverer is given to the law itself. This is a sound law. Okay, so let us have a closer look at how this sound law behaved. So it started from the aspirated voiced stops. Of course, this is strange for you because in English we don't have aspirated voiced stops. What is aspirated in English is only exclusive to the voiceless stops. Okay, the pataka. Okay, these are the only consonants that can be aspirated. But of course, there is no such thing as aspirated voiced stops. Yet it was there in Proto-Indo-European. It was one phase. Okay, it was baha, dga, gha. These are the aspirated consonants that, or stops, voiced stops, that turned throughout time to voiced stops, just ba, da, ga, and then they turned to voiceless stops, okay, pa, ta, and ka, and the final stage was turning to voiceless frigatives. Okay, so they turned from voiceless stops to voiceless frigatives eventually. This is the first sound shifting or Grimm's law that was discovered by Grimm. Okay, the sound change or the sound law or Grimm's law or first sound shifting is demonstrated, could be demonstrated through such examples in the daughter languages. So as you see here, we have in Latin a voiceless plosive, in Greek again the same, and Sanskrit. However, in Germanic languages like Gothic and Old English, we have the alternation from voiceless stops to voiceless fricatives. Okay, uh, the Proto-Indo-European. So we have, as you see here, in Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit, voiceless plosives, pa. In Gothic and Old English, we have the voiceless fricatives. Okay. In Proto-Indo-European, ta, which is voiceless again, voiceless stop, it became a stop يعني plosive. It is the same. Okay. Proto-Indo-European ta became Proto-Germanic voiceless tha. In some cases, this has become voiced the in modern English. So after the alternation from or the change from Proto-Indo-European voiceless plosives, there has been two طبعا voiceless frigatives in Proto-Germanic. There has been another change, which is the alternation of or the change of voiceless fricatives into voiced fricative, as you see here. Let us see an example. In Latin, we have tres. In Greek, we have tres again. So ta and da and ta, voiceless plosives or stops. And in Old Norse, we have thrir. This is called, this letter is called Thor, uh, pronounced as tha. Also, we have in English, we have the tha, three. Okay. In the word thou, okay, thou meaning you, there is this alternation of voiceless fricative to voiced fricative is or could be seen in this word. So the alternation from voiceless fricative to voiced fricative is not has not affected all the English words, but some of them. And طبعا thou is a modern English word, yet it is a late modern English word. Sorry, early modern English word, because modern English is subdivided into two groups or two sorry periods. The first is early modern English and the second is late modern English. There was in Proto-Indo-European and Proto-Germanic a set of consonants that are known as labialized consonants. And when we say a labial consonant, of course, we are referring to the place of articulation and to the use of the lips, okay? The two famous sounds that we know in English are the ma, the nasal ma, and the glide wa, as you know, okay? So labialized consonants are originally, they are consonants that are not labial consonants, yet they have the feature of being labialized because of being followed by um, by this wa. So it forms at the very end, they form one sound, like the case مثلا in diphthongs, okay, like a complex sound. So let us see how this was in Proto-Indo-European and Proto-Germanic, and what is the change that happened. So it is believed that in Proto-Indo-European there was what? There was a series of stops, right? Stops means what? Means plosives with labialization, with the lip being rounded. Okay, so these sounds are, these phonemes are the kwa, okay, the gwa and the kwa. In Proto-Indo-European, the kwa actually has become or turned to hua, okay, in Proto-Germanic, whereas the the Proto-Indo-European gwa turned to kwa, okay. So gwa, this gwa turned in Proto-Germanic into kwa, and the kwa turned into hua in Proto-Germanic. Let's see examples of these labialized consonants. For example, we have the Old English what? We have the Old English what. Originally, it was qua. So the hua was in Proto-Indo-European was qua. As you see in Latin, quod. So quod preserves the or kept the original form that was in Proto-Indo-European, quod, and it turned into Proto-Germanic or in Proto-Germanic language, it turned into hua. Okay, hua is simply the well-known what, the modern English what. So what, in fact, it was previously what. What comes from qua because it was originally qua in Proto-Indo-European, and when it passed or descended to Proto-Germanic, it comes in the form of hua, not qua. Okay, there was an alternation, sound alternation. So hua, what is originally what, or sorry, what is originally what, as you see in Old English. Proto-Indo-European gua has become, as we said, qua, and this is shown in the Old English word queene. Queene means woman, which became modern English what? Queen, right? So queen was originally gua, okay, and the evidence is that the qua was originally gua is still existing in or shows in Greek, okay. Greek has the word goon or goon, okay, for the for woman, okay. So it is goon, and originally it was gua, coming from or originally in Proto-Indo-European, which turned to qua, as you see in queen, quene in Old English. Another famous law that has been recorded and studied as well is known as Werner's law. And Werner's law actually is a small series of sound changes that followed the first sound shifting. First sound shifting, of course, we're referring here to Grimm's law. And what happens here is that voiceless frigatives turns to voiced frigatives when being preceded by unstressed syllables. So whenever voiceless frigatives are preceded by unstressed syllables, they would turn to voiced frigatives. So this is conditional. It is presumed to have taken place in the 1st century of our era, and accent stabilization probably came after this set of changes. So on which syllable has the stabilization like taken place, it took place on the first syllable, as we have previously pointed out. Proto-Germanic vowel system. So, Proto-Germanic vowel system was very simple. They had just three the three most important vowels. We have A, E, O, or A, E, O, and the long counterparts of them. So there was a change too in Proto-Germanic vowel system that affected the short O and the long A. Okay, as you see here in Latin we have octu, okay, or octu, which turns to, so O turns to A, and A, the long A, turns to long U, okay. So we have Latin octu, Old High Germanic, of course a Germanic language, or a descendant of Proto-Germanic, where the O turns to A, as you see here. The change is from O to A, and the long A and the long U here in Latin, frater, which turns to Old English brother. Okay, so as you see here, the change is quite apparent. So here we come to the end of this chapter, ending with this part, the vocabulary part. The vocabulary or the nature of the vocabulary of Proto-Germanic, it would be ranging between the Germanic or purely Germanic words and those which are borrowed. Remember the core words? This is the same idea. So the core words versus the borrowed ones. Some words are peculiar to Proto-Germanic, are specific to Proto-Germanic. So what does this mean? That it has not been attested in other Indo-European languages. Okay, they were like specific or totally belong to the Proto-Germanic language. Okay, examples of Germanic words include words to do with ships, seafaring, which is ship, sailboat, keel, sheet, float, sea, or all these words are purely what? Purely Germanic words. Germanic also, Germanic language, borrowed vocabulary, borrowed variety of words from Celtic language, number one, and from Latin, uh, among other languages. So Celtic language is the language that was spoken by the Celts who originally inhabited England. Latin, of course, is the language spoken by the Romans who invaded England. They were in contact with both speakers of those languages, Celtic from one side and Latin from the other side. So borrowed words, especially from Germanic Yani, they borrowed words, especially from Celts, also from the Romans, who were culturally, as we said in the previous lecture, that the Romans were culturally higher than the Germans or Germanic tribes, and this actually shows in the kind of words they borrowed that the Romans were culturally more advanced. From Celts, or from Celtic language, Germanic language borrowed such words related to metallurgy, like iron, like lead. Okay, so these are Celtic words. From Romans, from Latin, they borrowed, the Germanic yani borrowed, Germanic language borrowed such words related to war terms, related to building terms, related to trade terms. So these are the advanced stuff, okay? War terms because they were advanced in war. And in طبعا inventing weapons and so on and so forth. Okay, also in building terms they were in this field more advanced. So the Germanic people borrowed words or vocabulary related to building, like street, like wall, like tile, chalk, like mill, like pit, okay, among other terms or words. The trade also, they were more advanced in trade. This is reflected in the Germanic language borrowing of such words related to trade or trading, like pound, mile, cheap, monger, and mint. Okay. Also, things related or words or vocabulary related to food, as you see here, we have wine, apple, plum, pear. So, of course, the words weren't like this. Okay, this is the equivalent words in our contemporary English. Okay, so the word wasn't wine; it was something else, older form of wine. Or so, what is equivalent to wine was borrowed, and what is equivalent to apple again was borrowed. These are not the exact words, of course. Um, so street has a word, an equivalent word in Latin, like for example being stratum. Okay, so it becomes street in English, modern English, and so on and so forth. This applies for the rest of the words we're talking about here. Okay. So thank you. That's it for today's lecture.